What's up, guys? Welcome to A Reseller's Life. My name is Chris. This is my Reseller Spotlight series where I talk to my favorite resellers and ask them sort of how they plan their day, best tips and tricks, best practices, that we can go over how resellers actually do it, like hashtag real life. Today we have Mark Meyer. Thank you so much for joining me. And why don't we start with where you live and what you sell?
Hey everyone, my name is Mark Meyer and I'm located in Freeport, New York. I'm in Long Island. Here I sell a variety of tools, electronics, and vintage jewelry. To be honest, we sell everything. I have some things I don't sell, but for the most part, we sell a ton of vintage items here.
Now, you're one of the more interesting personalities because you've also been on television, which a lot of people want to discuss. But for me, I want to look more at sort of your workflow. You have multiple projects going on and a small crew. So maybe let's start with, what does your day look like? What does a traditional day look like?
So a traditional day looks very rigid in a way that I wake up, I have breakfast, and I start taking coaching calls in the morning. And
Mhm.
then in the afternoon, I greet my crew that comes in somewhere between 8 and 9 o'clock. From there, I'll take my personal assistant at 10 a.m. And then after that, I'll basically put out any fires in the office that's required from 10 to noon, take lunch. When I come back from lunch, that's really like my time when I get to dive into a project, whether it be eBay or one of the other projects we're working on.
So for you, is that sort of the hardest part of your day, is that creative director role?
The hardest part of my day is making sure that all the fires are put out
Mm.
and that everything's happening in the way that it should. And what supported me with that is training. So to allow my guys the freedom to know what to do even when I'm not there. And what is also supportive is asking them to step into leading tasks so that the weight's not all on my shoulders.
So let's talk about maybe a few of the different ways you acquire inventory to sell.
Yeah. My favorite is auctions.
Mhm.
So auction buying takes up 80% of what I purchase. So when I'm buying tools, electronics, jewelry, I'm generally going to large scale auctions and I'm buying in bulk. I rarely go out and search for onesie twosies. I'm
Mhm.
almost always looking at, I want a pallet, I want a crate, I want cases. And as you know, Chris, with resale, the cheaper we can get, the more money we're going to make. And generally, bulk is a very efficient way to do it.
So
So
you
most,
have, go
yeah.
ahead, sorry.
So most of what I get is from auctions, and
Mhm.
then I would say about 25% of those are local sales, estates that call me, and we go in and purchase or buyouts.
So I love this. Let's say that you win an auction or you have a buyout. You, I assume, have some equipment to get it back to your facility. What happens once you've won?
So once I there'll be a few ways to answer this. I'm going to answer the all right. So when I purchase a huge load,
Hmm.
if I know I'm going to a big time auction and it's out of state, I'll bring a trailer. So I have a 22-foot box trailer with a tow vehicle. I'll bring that down south or upstate if I have to. If it's local, I'll go with a smaller vehicle, kind of scout it out, and then take it back with me. And depending on what I'm in for and how invested I am, depends on how much crew and equipment we show up with.
So, before we get too much further into the business, I want to sort of compliment you on the fact that you hear people say, when you're running a business, it doesn't seem like fun. It's kind of rough, and I want to just do it more whimsically. But for you, you seem like one of the happiest guys I know, even though you have structure.
Yeah, yeah.
You take time to do stuff outside of business. So for you, what does a perfect Saturday look like? Let's say you don't have to work. What do you do?
A perfect Saturday for me would be relaxed, enjoying around the shop. Sometimes I'll do projects or I'll enjoy some time with friends. And I have a wonderful balance right now between work and play. And that is coming of age, if you will. I'm 33. So as I get older, the more I realize working 80 hours a week and reselling is great and a great way to make amazing money, but it's not everything in life.
I agree, and I can see that. Your smile and this when you and I met you a few times now, and you've always been down to get a drink, talk to people, see what they're up to. You ask a lot of questions, which makes you one of the more interesting people rather than just talking. So let's talk about you've got a trailer full of stuff. Here is where I think is the most difficult and the most valuable part of reselling, which is sorting. You get back to
Oh,
your space.
yeah.
Now what? How do you start?
Great. So this is some juicy information, and I'm
Hmm.
so excited to share it with y'all. I just went to an estate up north in Boston. I bought the estate for $3,000. We had radio equipment, tons of ham radio equipment, antiques, military, all that. The family organized it before I got there. We loaded a 22-foot trailer full, got it back. When it comes to the sorting, it took us a day and a half to unload the trailer, but what I asked all my guys to do was please divvy it up into sections.
Hmm.
So we know that certain stuff is going to the antique market and the flea market, and then a certain portion is going to go for research in eBay, a small portion is going to Amazon, and we sort it out. What I'm excited to tell y'all, it's really important that when you get the file box full of manuals, that you go put them with the items, the
Mm.
original boxes to go with those items. So we had speaker boxes that were empty. We went and found the actual speakers. When we do a whole estate, you find things like that. And the sorting is really important. You want cords to go back with the machines that they fit,
Hmm.
because that really increases 10, 20% of the value, because you're able to power these things on and get top quality money for them.
That you know, I just bought a portable generator, and it's been easier bringing that with me to sort because bought my first estate. So walking around with the portable generator and plugging it in was a lot faster
Mhm.
than moving everything to one area to do it. Because sometimes when you, in the initial look through, it came with 4 industrial fans. So, and the manuals and boxes were in different parts. I did not do that. And now trying to find it would be kind of a mess. You kind of need to do it right at the beginning. Sort everything. That's great advice. Do you put any numbering or system on them? How do you inventory all that stuff?
So when we were at the estate, what I asked my guys to do, we went through and I would clear. My real advice is to clear a room room by room. So
Mm,
when we buy an estate, it's right of removal. So we would clear a room by room, and then I would go in and I would pick out the expensive items for eBay. We would tag green for eBay, blue for flea market, and then anything that was low end or questionable, we would put into another bin for research later on. And
mm.
one or two of my guys are trained in going through the items to try to figure out what's worth selling and what's not. And you're right, Chris. I absolutely love my job. And I love doing this stuff. It's amazing to find cool stuff that very few people get their hands on.
Have you heard of the website First Dibs?
No.
I have never heard of it. Yesterday, I talked to a consigner and I looked at this website. Everything is between $5,000 and 50 million. It costs
Wow.
$500 a month to be part of their service, and they take 25% of the final value, like as a final value fee. It's insane.
Hmm.
I have never seen this high end of a. They will find the auction houses for you. They're like, only bring us the rarest, coolest historical stuff. I've never seen a website of that level, but you can see there's the flea market, there's also stuff I assume you have to take to the dispose of. Do you also handle any of the clean out part of it?
So on some jobs, yes. On this particular job, it depends the terms. So each
Mm,
job is specific. This particular job, the house was sold. The new buyer said, who's a flipper, said anything in the house, just leave it. Don't strain your back. Don't. My guys will remove everything. The thing is that those items are destined for a dumpster. So, and
that's
I
right.
know that. So we're really attempting to also salvage in addition to make money. But if we see an item that's $2 to $10, we'll take it, put it in a bin, because a pallet of that stuff is still worth 1,000 to 2,000.
Mm,
So we'll palletize that. And actually, to share, that day we actually went through, pulled all the flea market, the low end, $10 or less. I don't even list on eBay. And we put all those items in a pallet. we'll crate them up, box them, shrink wrap them, roll them on the whole trailer with a pallet. So when we get to the shop, we can easily put a pallet jack under and roll it back out.
That is badass. Okay, so
Mhm.
do you have a contact at the flea market?
I actually will go to the flea market and sell myself.
Wow.
In addition, we have a guy for everything. So, there's a guy that loves uh there's a guy that loves records. There's a guy that loves militaria. There's a guy that
Mm.
loves coins, right? I got a guy who loves dimes, right? He's the dime guy. He wants to look at silver dimes, and he'll stare in my booth for 3 hours buying silver dimes. So I usually sell most of the things. Most of the high end we go on eBay, especially with vintage stuff. Amazon's not when you go to an estate. It's rare we're going to get Amazonable goods out of an estate. It just doesn't happen.
Mhm.
High end goes to eBay. Highest end goes to auction houses. If it's top quality and we can
Mhm.
get it in an auction house, we will. After that, it's Brimfield antique markets. Then it goes to like flea market garage sales. And then you go to dollar table and below, or donations. So that's
See,
really the grouping that we put together.
this is gonna be my favorite tip. I usually wait till the end of the video, but I love this so much. Maybe I'll have two favorite tips. But the
Mhm.
networking of like, you're this guy, you're the record guy, you're the shoe guy. I remember I've only been to one storage auction, and I went and I was like, I think this lot's worth $50 because it was mostly, from what I could see, empty boxes. It was
Mhm.
$50 as what I was gonna bid max, and it went up to $500. So the first, it was a weird experience, but two people there got my information and asked me what I sell. And one guy said, "You'll be my shoe guy." Because he's thinking, I'm never going to sell shoes. If they come in, they're going to this guy. And you kind of
Yeah.
have to do that because he said, I leave home with the box truck and come home with it full. Gas costs money. I'll find a way to sell whatever is in it.
Hmm.
And I thought that was fascinating. But you do have to have a network. It's very difficult you can't master every category.
No, not at all. And what you just spoke about happened 12, maybe 14 hours ago. We had a records pile, two or three crates of records. I called my record guy. He came in 5 minutes. He lives down the block.
Mm-hmm.
He paid me 150 for 20 of the best albums. I know they're
Mm-hmm.
worth more money,
Mm-hmm.
but you know what I got out of it? Speed.
Yep, that's right. That's and did he take the rest of them that were worth less?
So he told me that if he took the rest of them, he was going to throw them out.
Hmm.
So I said, listen, we'll take them to the flea market. We'll get $1 a piece. We'll put them in the flea market bins. And then what we'll do is we'll sell them 2 or 3 times. After that, we'll give them away for free. After that, they go to the dumpster.
Oh,
So
that is smart. And that is something, man. I wish estate sales here are banned until May 3rd. So it was interesting seeing how they needed to get the stuff out. There was very few options. We couldn't donate anything. We couldn't do any free. There's no local pickup allowed. If you're a company, you can do it as like a person, but a realtor is not going to put their company reputation on the line for that. And you are right. Each contract is different. It might include getting rid of the stuff for them. It might not. So I
yeah.
think, how do you investigate when you're meeting the people for each project? Do you ask a series of questions? How do you find out what they need?
Yes. So veteran response to this question of how do you set up your deal with the real estate agent? You ask questions and you get photography. Um, so questions to ask are generally what's available, like what's for sale, what's not for sale, like give me the
Mm,
parameters, and what's your timeline look like. Some realtors, I got 3 days to get this out. Some realtors are, the house is closing next month. So like
mm,
timeline's very important. The next is, what are you anticipating to get out of this? So some guys want cash, some guys want checks, some are on behalf of the on the estate. So some of them I deal with lawyers, and we're writing checks to these power of attorneys. And some people they want full cleanouts. So if they buy a property and they want to put it on the market, and you walk in and it's a hoarder's house, it's important to have insurance for that on to
mm,
protect us and to protect them. And then we'll go in and if it's a price to clean everything out, we're going to be paid for the removal. If I'm going in to remove stuff and I'm going to resell it, I'm generally paying the people to have that right of removal. Yeah.
So let's back up for just a moment. Let's say that somebody bought everything that you have, and you got to start over again.
Hmm.
But you have all the knowledge you have now. Would you do anything differently? You get to start completely fresh.
Um, wow, that's a great question. Um, what I would do differently is I would most likely purchase only the most desirable goods.
Mm.
That's you know what, I would definitely look at this as a fresh start, and I would say, all right, the things I'm going to invest my time and money in are going to be worth it. My average sales price on Amazon right now is 82,
Hmm.
and my average sale price on eBay is between 75 and 80 per sale. So I really have, we spoke about this in Las Vegas. I really,
Hmm.
in the last 2 years, have only concentrated on large lots, or valuable things worth a fair amount of money. That way, I can afford to pay my guys. We can put roof over their heads. We can do everything with an $80 ASP. I can take returns without an issue.
Hmm.
And that's much more difficult on the $20 items. You know, you sell it, you take a return, there's not much money left.
So when it comes to that, I remember distinctly talking to you about, you were mentioning you sort of want to do the same amount of work each year. Like you're not afraid of work, but you want to earn more with the same amount of work. And I find that that's very different than I want to make money doing nothing. A lot of people say that. You're saying you just want to be more efficient with your time, which I think is
Yeah.
powerful. You mentioned something like your ASP doubled and you had sort of the same schedule.
Yeah, pretty much my ASP doubled. And some things, so I'd like to talk about maybe some techniques that resellers could use
Hmm.
or borrow. So there are a lot of resellers that sell one item at a time. My invitation is, especially in storage, you get so much stuff in particularly around storage or secondhand items. If you have 18 pairs of size 32 jeans, break them up into 3 lots, 2 lots or 1 lot, and then you do an entire group image. You sell everything bulk, and you move on to the next one. We once asked ourselves the question: if we had to sell this in 3 days, this 20-foot locker, how would we do it?
Hmm.
And those questions started prompting ways to make bigger sales, so that we're not shipping, if you can imagine, shipping 30 pairs of jeans can take individually, maybe an hour to 2, 3 hours. But if you're boxing one huge lot, you're cutting down on the amount of time that you're spending, and you're also not doing 30 listings, talking to 30 customers, doing 30 labels. It's less money, but we're blowing through the lots much faster, and we're generating a bigger wheel every hit. So
Where does
that's,
the 3 day come from?
well, it was just an idea. Well, so in storage or auctions, so inventory is never a problem. I don't know how long you've been in, Chris, but you'll notice in this world, getting inventory is the easy part for us. You can get it everywhere. So our idea was, how can we make more money and churn it faster? So what that looks like is, if you had a big load, you take some of the questionable items, you send them to the antique auction houses. After that, we put the best stuff up on groups on eBay. Um, and I want to share another technique that I love to do.
Hmm.
It happened today. We have circus posters. Some of them are reproductions. We got a genre. If you buy something and you have a box of Snow White toys, one toy may be $5, $10, but when you group them together, you have something that someone can really appreciate. So we'll go ahead and put all those together in a big lot, and then sure, it'll sell for a discount, and we're still getting our average sales price of 60, 70, $80, and we don't have to list 9 to 12 items that are worth 10 to $20. We're getting the $80 on the group, and it's gone. And
Do you put a marquee piece in that lot to sort of elevate all the basic stuff? Do you ever think of it that way?
um I I know people that do that. I don't do it particularly. If there's one real $150 gem, we generally remove that and we'll
Mm.
group the lower to mid-size stuff or mid-range stuff together.
I think I just got a lot of rubber stamps, and they're all worth, none of them are worth more than $20, except for
Hmm.
two are maybe worth $40 or $50, so they're not a huge home run, but I just included them in the lot. But I get it. If it was over $100, I wouldn't have, because if you look at the time value of it. But then I get it. It's like I remember talking to an auction dealer that said trying to break even in the first week or immediately, and then the rest of it, take your time. I mean, I've heard that strategy. How do you look at cash flow with these types? So that you spent 3 grand on an estate, do you look at it and I want to get my 3 grand back first and then take my time? How do you look at that investment?
So 3 grand to the estate, I probably spent 1,200 and five days of labor with two guys and all that. So like I'm in 4,500. I don't get caught up in the I got to get it back to satisfy a need. I get what I want out of it because I declared it, and
Hmm.
I'll get it.
Okay.
I'll get it in due time. So, for instance, there's pieces of radio equipment. I will. All right, this is what I will say. I will target the higher end items to get my money back,
Hmm.
but I don't discount because I have an urge to get the money back. When you have 3, 5 grand in play, we also have 30 or 50 or 100 grand in play at all times.
Hmm.
So I don't alter my strategy depending on what I laid out. I will look at a lot. If there are 40 items in a lot, I generally want to see my money back in one or two items, and the
Hmm.
rest will be profit. That's a
Okay.
common analogy I'll use.
Do you think of it as in how easy it is to replace the item when you're accepting offers?
Mm, not really.
The reason I
I
ask is as an example, I got a vintage exercise bike, and they're selling for 150. But right now, since there's no gyms open, I priced it at 230, and there are none like it. So I'm thinking, okay, this is 50% above what they normally sell for. The market will change once gyms open. This will be worth way less.
hmm
But also, I had a ton of offers at 150, which is the normal price for it. I'm just thinking it just depends on the market, and there are none other that replace it. But on these rubber stamps, if it's worth 40 and somebody offers 30, I may launch it if I have a lot of them.
hmm
So it just depends. I guess it's it's an art. What you do is an art.
What I'd like to say, in regards to, you had mentioned there were none available. You have a product that
Hmm.
sells. There are none available. You went 25% above market. That's standard, and I
Hmm.
applaud you for doing that. In the idea that, you know, if we have an item today. We saw it sell. Comps were 100 shipped. It wasn't enough to get me excited, so I told my lister I want it 169 plus shipping.
Hmm.
Let it sit for 2 months. When it
Mm.
doesn't sell, we'll put it on sale for 20%, and I'll work my way down. And I also know that the $100 bill is waiting there anytime I want it.
Mm.
Anytime I want it, it's just chilling there. So I'm not in a rush to get my money. Something I will share, if you are interested in, I always think about what I'm going to list. Are you more concerned with money or are you more concerned with space?
Hmm.
If you're concerned with money, I go after the valuable items. If
Mm.
I'm concerned with space, I go after the large, non-stackable bicycle, exercise bikes, because those are terrible for storage.
Terrible for storage. That's right.
You could put what, 50 pairs of shoes in that same block
Yeah.
if you didn't have a bike there. So like for me, that's what I was thinking would do a lot better.
So how do you arrange your space? Let's say you have items of all different shapes and sizes. How would you organize your inventory or
So
make an improvement to what you have?
Um, all right. So the way I use it is actually something that I learned a couple years ago with. So we use the custom SKU for our
Hmm.
inventory location.
Hmm.
We'll shoot it, list it. Generally, once we shoot it and we put it away, I then list it after the fact. I don't go back and like hold the item. I just like do all the measurements and then list by the computer. Up here we have, I don't know, three, six. We have like maybe 45 bins. that we use for everything smaller than a shoebox. For everything larger than a shoebox or extremely heavy, we have a ground floor, and then we have a full 600 square foot basement that houses, I don't know, another 80 feet worth of racks. So if it's big, we put it downstairs. If it's medium, it'll go ground floor. And then if it's small and grabbable, like small parts, we put everything up here. And yeah,
Do you ever consider consignment on super expensive items?
yeah. Like if someone wants to consign with me.
Hmm.
So yeah, and when we talk to the real estate agents, generally the question of what do you feel is most valuable is leading into consignment if it goes that route. I would
Mm.
prefer to buy it and never have to talk to them back and forth, never do paperwork, never send out checks, never owe people money. However, sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, that piece is worth $5,000," and then you're like, "Okay, well, I'm willing to do a deal on this." And they're like, "Yeah, but that one piece," and you'd be like, "Listen, let's go halves. I'll do 50-50. We'll put in all the work. We'll make all the phone calls. We'll do all the sales. And that'll be sold on good faith on a consignment deal." So yeah, we will do consignment. It's rare.
I sold a Rolex that for like 8,500 for a gentleman, and I took a $50 commission trying to get him to open up the rest of his stuff, and it worked. So sometimes
Yeah,
you can kind of do that.
absolutely. It usually can work real well. For the best part about consignment is
Hmm.
this game of win-win.
Hmm.
We both make more money if we do well.
Hmm.
And that unison has always served me well in this space.
Let's talk about something cool that you sold.
Mm, I sold some cool stuff.
So much cool stuff. Hmm.
um,
Well, I thought of you because I found some Department of Transportation. I found all this government stuff, FBI jacket, and all of it was removed from eBay.
yeah,
You can't sell
yeah,
any of that stuff.
no. Um, oh, all right. So I'd like to talk. Yeah, I found what I
Okay.
want to talk about. Um, a year and a half ago, I got a phone call. So also, I really encourage you to network with
Hmm.
large companies. So one moving company took me 5 years before the boss would talk to me. And all it took, I went to a storage auction. We came out. I bought 7 of the 10 lots because I don't do storage too much anymore. But when you buy storage, if they're sister lots, you start to buy in a row because you have dining room chairs in one lot, you
Hmm.
have a kitchen table in another, and they all freaking go together. So the owner came out and said, "Hey, I saw you buy a lot. We got another 13 in the back. I don't
Mm.
want to deal with this auctioneer who takes 45% and
Mm.
charges you 20. Why don't you just come and buy them straight?" So I did. And they called me. They had a customer downsizing from 6,000 to 3,000, and she had a ton of stuff um, from her family, including $35,000 in audio equipment. Now, they bought this in the late 70s, early 80s for 35 grand, and they sold that all that stuff I bought for 3,200. Now, a lot of it was worn out, a lot of it was but it was really good stuff. And we sold, I would never believe this, Chris. We sold a black record player. The
Hmm.
platter was on triple springs. It had a disc for the LP record that weighed like 42 pounds.
Wow.
Unbelievable. It was black with gold writing and etching all around it. It was beautiful. Broken.
Mm.
2100.
Wow.
2100. And guys who are in the business will know it was an Audio-Teca.
Mm.
And it was a really, really nice. And I couldn't believe that a record player that was like, it was for parts.
Mm.
2100. We sold a tube amp for 1700, and I sold another amp. We had it repaired. It had a cut cord on the back. I paid a shop 600 to repair it. We sold that for 7 grand.
That's unbelievable. That's
That was
awesome.
so high-end audio equipment. Don't miss out. It can get really, really good.
So this brings me back to another thought. You mentioned that you would invest in the most desirable goods. I have found that if I pay too much on really desirable goods, it's fine. It
Yeah.
ends up being fine. So, but
I'm
if
so
you,
glad you said that.
but if you get non-desirable items for free, it doesn't
Yeah.
work out,
Yeah.
even though it's free. So
Yep.
it's kind of odd if someone says this is worth 5 grand and you're like, you know, I know I'm gonna make money if I buy it at 1,500 or 2 grand. If
Mm,
for some reason you have to pay 2,500 or 3 grand, you still usually are fine if it's that valuable.
yeah. The worst that generally happens is you break even.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the worst that happens. And big time brands like Snap-on and Burberry and Prada and the
Hmm.
big boys, I don't have them in stock. They don't last. At the worst that happens is you get your money back.
Yeah.
You may buy a fake, which is more designer, but like with Snap-on tools, you buy a torque wrench or something like that, it's 300, 400, and there's a constant market of selling that stuff. So if I had to start over, I'd be going to sales and I'd be like, if I can't get 100 and make good money, I'm not taking it. Inventory is everywhere.
Yeah. I just find that most people, I haven't heard that idea yet, which is the most desirable goods. But I remember there was a pair of Air Jordan Motorsport sixes, which Michael Jordan gave to his racing team. It was like an unusual find, and the guy I was buying it from was like, "It's worth 2,500. You should buy it from me for 2,500, because then I want to do business with you." And tell you what, um, because there's only six of them, just trust me on this one. And so I was like, okay, whatever, I want to get in with this guy. And I offered 2 grand, and he said, no problem, it's going to take you less than 24 hours to sell. So I posted it. A sneaker magazine reached out, they bought it in the same day. And then I started to realize, even if that's way better than getting a lot for free. So people do look at things like, I want to spend as little money as possible, but you didn't say as little money as possible, you said most desirable, so you can pay up. And I think
Go.
that's very insightful.
Yeah, anybody who's been doing it a long time and is successful, we all say the same thing. Go where the money is. Go for the expensive lots and go and like 100%. I'd rather, so what'd you sell the shoes for?
2,500 for two
Okay.
grand. So yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of feel you might have been able to get more than
Yeah,
that.
probably. Yes. But
Yeah,
that just makes me think of the, like, that's not a lot if it's valuable.
yeah.
And the churn is so fast when you are dealing, I don't know if you know the statistic, 90% of what sells on eBay is under $30.
Mm,
There's not that much stuff that's over $30. It's actually less competitive because less people can afford to get into that game. People are trying to make $500 go really far, so they buy 500 items for $1. You might
yeah,
spend $500 on one item,
yeah, yeah,
and eliminate all the listing. You do your research, you learn about the item. There's going to be for sure less than 10 of them
yeah.
available, and then you just have to be better than those listings.
Something I wanna circle back that you said. You said I looked up something and I didn't see any for sale. I saw them selling, but only mine was available.
Hmm.
I like to be the one that's in that position.
Hmm.
So we have ham radio equipments from the 60s downstairs. They sell, and you can see one sold for 458, another one sold for 606, and these are auctions.
Hmm.
If I see 606 in an auction, I'm going 799 fixed price
That's right.
all day, all day.
All day.
I'll wait, and most of the time it don't take long. And then what'll happen is, I got stories for things I sold, and I want to tell you a quick one.
Hmm.
We bought a BB gun.
Hmm.
A um it was a very specific one. It was an air pump Sheridan. 150. They sell for 150 used. We had one in the box, and we put it up for 1,000. And I had guys writing, and I just said, you know what? I don't care. I love it on the shelf. Leave it up there for a year if it takes. I'm going to get me a G. So I'll wait for it. So long story short, we had like 2 emails a day. Hey, you're really overpriced, blah, 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 blah. Would you take 500? I really like it. Everybody's beating it up, right? So eventually we come in, we take like 600 or 700. But I want you to know that was 4 to 5 times over market. And that was just one of those things where it was like, if someone wants it, they're gonna pay up for it.
Mhm.
And if you're in that position, just buy, sell it, and hold. Like if you list it, they will come.
This is why it's also important to focus on categories where you can have a home run. In vintage electronics, I sold a Marantz record player for triple market because it worked. All the other ones weren't working. It was not in necessarily great condition, but it just needed to be cosmetically fixed. You'll find ones that are cosmetically incredible and need to be repaired. And I think another thing that you're really good at is accurately describing the condition, because then customers, if you put these are the things that are wrong with it, the buyer confidence goes through the roof. You've looked at it.
Mhm.
So that's definitely different than as is, didn't even attempt. You'll see those right now. I picked up 8 typewriters and the listings vary between $30 and 500 on the same item. One says, I found it in the trash, $30, you pick it up. And other ones are like,
Mhm.
I took the time to figure out what's wrong with it. It's part of this era. It has this feature on it, sells for 500. A little bit more work gets you that extra money. Um,
Yeah.
that's
And
crunch time.
they want to see what's wrong with it. I also would recommend on delicate items, we write in there, this will be double boxed. It's going to get to you. It's going to get to you in perfect condition. So often, like on we sell porcelain sinks, vintage porcelain sinks for like $200 a piece
Hmm.
that we bought bulk for $3 and $5 each, and we put in every listing, at the bottom, we're going to put, this will be wrapped, packed, double boxed, and arrive to you in great condition.
I want to talk about your reseller crew. How did you find them? What kind of qualities do they have? And at what point do you get someone to help?
So I would recommend most people to get help when the cash flow can afford it. Most of the time, my biggest limitation is um,
Time.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for answering that. Most of the time, my limitation is my time.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and then after that, it's feeding the products and doing all that. And what I would really recommend is that you hire when it makes sense. And also, there's been uses of virtual assistants, which we've started to implement. And also now with COVID in the space, we're using off. Let me take that again. Sorry.
No worries.
Now with COVID, we're using offsite assistants. So
Mm.
I have someone a couple towns away, and she's helping me with emails, and she's helping me with listings and answering questions. Time is my biggest thing, and as a buyer right now, I really just want to be in the buying side and making sure that things are operating okay. To answer your question about how I found my guys, I posted an ad on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace is really underrated. It produces amazing results, more results than I really like to handle. Um, and the qualities of the guys that I seek is dependent on the job. For the movers, the guys who are loading and unloading trucks, I take them 5'10" and up, and most of them weigh in at 200 pounds. They're big guys. Um, they're very they're focused, and most of the time I've been getting guys that are like 35 and older because they're better without using cell phones, and they're really good at loading trucks.
Hmm.
The techie guys, those are my younger guys in here. So I generally I hired a lister. He's 22,
Mm.
and he is, yeah. Oh, you need to download a driver for the PC? Yeah, no problem. Boom, boom, boom. He's smart. He's analytical. He is very precise. And then the guy I have running my shipping department named Larry, and I sent him to lunch so me and you could hang out. Larry is a very hands-on kind of guy, and he's my shipping guy
Mm.
because he loves to have the ball of control. And that's the type of character you want in a position where it matters. So, those are my recommendations.
That is awesome. I think it definitely depends. Like, I'm 35 and I still consider there's a pretty big tech gap between myself and a 19-year-old. They've been using the tools, they've been using the same things as long as I have, even though they're younger. It's not unusual to find a 20-year-old with 10 years of experience with the phone. They
Mm-hmm.
know what they're doing. They're faster, quicker. So I'm not afraid to hire someone with more experience to look at items for me. There are listers who can you can find on Instagram or on Upwork that have been listing items since 1990, and they know the keywords, but they don't know the tech maybe. So you have to look at what people are good at. That's really important. And I love that. See, this is, when I think of Warren Buffett, the reason why I think he's the wealthiest man in the world is not because of the money part. It's that he has 18 hours of free time a day. He talks about that. He's like, I don't do anything. Everything is done by somebody else. I'm literally deciding the very top decision, and that's it. And then I have 17 and a half hours to think about it and half an hour to actually do it. And at that level, when you have all that free time, then you can really, your stress level goes way down. And I think that's why he has lived so long, even though he eats McDonald's every day, because like the stress, people underestimate how stress kills you if you're at
Yeah,
that level. And I think the stress comes from doing everything yourself. You
yeah.
can't.
And I have released more and more and more control about what the employees do, and also this is something that took me a while, allowing the employees to make mistakes, Chris.
Yep.
And you know that they're gonna. The first time you listed stuff, I'm sure they were full of mistakes. I'm sure the keywords were all over the place. Maybe there weren't even keywords.
Mm-hmm.
So allowing space for them to make mistakes and grow has been helpful. And I agree. I watched a podcast either from Warren Buffett or someone talking about it, and he was saying, I don't even put gas in my car anymore.
Yeah.
He goes, because I don't want to think about it. He goes,
Mm-hmm.
I want the most amount of time in my day to be free so I can do other things. And I thought about that. I was like, wow. I said, I need to get an assistant, and I did, and it was really worth it.
This is why people that are super rich sometimes, like the most common millionaire vehicle is a Toyota, not because it requires the least maintenance. That's the reason that they get one, not because of it can get you to the A to B and then it doesn't require going into the shop to waste that time. So I always save my hardest question for the end. So what one thing could you do that would affect your business the most if you focused on it? Let's say the next 6 months to a year. What could you do that would affect your business the most?
Great question. So what I could do in the next 6 months that would affect my business the most, work on training manuals, work on systems and processes that operate without my involvement.
Mm.
That would put me 30, 40, 50, 100 grand a month kind of status. And
Mhm.
I'm grateful you asked that question because I'm
So
going to
let's
take
talk
advantage.
about before we call it a day. How do you start that training manual procedure? Say you want to document something. Where do you begin with a notebook, sticky notes?
So, so I mean, I have one right here. This is 9 pages that I
Hmm.
wrote.
Hmm.
And all my employees, I asked them to read this twice when they come in. Now, to answer your question, how I would do it with that in intention behind it would probably be to go to a place like Trainual,
Mm.
which is a manual
Yep.
like software that allows you to help train. And I think that would probably be something that would really set up structure. And then the persistence of, hey, we have this set up. Let me make a video about it. And then let me make a package and a product. Let me package it for my internal. And then I think eventually do an external. Here are 10 videos on these are the top 10 ways how to package, top 10 ways to save with shipping, top 10 ways to list. Things like that would be highly supportive for the business.
One more thing I'm going to add to that because I'm in that same boat. I think most people are in that same boat. You fall to the level of your systems. If your systems are incredible, your business will be incredible. So I have now in the photo area and listing area a visible list of what needs to happen.
Hmm.
So for shoes, I'm having people check, like, make sure the shoelaces are not torn. If they're torn, mention that. Do the bend test. If it starts to crack, let's throw that away and avoid the return in the future.
Hmm.
Everything is visible. With shipping, I've seen really cool diagrams where it's like step one, if it's under a pound, over here, over a pound, this section. And if you can visually see it. And I think this is the part that people think when you get good at it, you stop looking at that. But like brain surgeons look through what to do before doing it because it's literally life or death. But for us, it's not life or death. So you may be lazy and not look through the list of what to do. I've seen tons of employers say, read the instructions every day, even though you know how to do it, just to remind yourself that the fundamental, like I think the difference between yourself or someone just starting is just you don't skip steps as often. You recognize there's a procedure to get things through. So I want to take a second to commend you because stepping out on your own takes a lot of bravery and courage, and you are going to make a lot of mistakes, and it's going to be kind of funky, but it's always worth it. I remember my old boss saying, "I'm firing you because these are golden handcuffs. You need to go out there and fail for 10 years. It'll be worth it.
Mhm.
Even though you're not making a guaranteed paycheck, you will figure it out." So I want to commend you for that. And my favorite tip from you today is definitely the networking, understanding that you only have so much time, but you know, looking at, I forgot which employer I watched, but this guy's goal was to hire 100 people a day. And I was just thinking, are you insane? That's how you build a $1 trillion company. 100 people a day. Imagine that manpower. It's insane, right? So I love the thought of networking with specific people for a specific reason. What's the best way for people to find you?
So on Instagram at Mark Meyer here, and on YouTube at Mark Meyer here. Those are my best communication channels.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time today to talk with me. I always enjoy your company. And until next time, guys, make progress daily.
Thanks, man.